Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Southborough School Committee on Wednesday, June 12th, 2024, and it is 6:30 p.m. My name is Chelsea Malinowski, Chair. For those of you who don't know me, we have some new faces out there tonight, so thank you for coming. The first order of business that we have tonight is a retiree recognition. And we have two of our retirees who are present tonight that we would like to recognize. The first one is Lori Weiner. Oh, we have three. Oops, I was already told two. Please. Okay, sorry. And so I don't know who the third one is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Anne-Marie Angus, I actually don't. I'm not familiar with, but she's here tonight. And do you mind giving her?
So it's an honor and privilege to be able to recognize three of our retirees on behalf of the principals, the faculty, staff, and the school committee. This evening we're recognizing three educators who have combined 71 years of experience working in our district. And we're very thankful for all of their dedication and commitment to the students. They are very excited, but we're not, that when we have experienced educators leaving our system, also we lose the wisdom, the historical knowledge, and the experience. So this evening, we'd just like to say a few words and publicly recognize each of you for the service, your service. So I'm gonna ask all three of you to come up so you can share the glory. So, So I know that the three in front of you probably would prefer not to be in front of this audience right now, but I think it's important to recognize them. So Anne-Marie Angus began her career in 1996. As a PE teacher, she has taught in all schools in Southborough, Finn, Woodward, Neary, and Trotter. She has been so committed to the wellness of our students. She's been extremely caring. She has coached. She's coached basketball, volleyball, field hockey. She has been a tireless advocate of the students in the public schools of Southborough. So, Anne-Marie, thank you. I think Principal Hershuk has a few words to say as well.
Thank you, Greg. I just want to recognize Anne-Marie's 28 years of service here in Southborough. Her commitment to fostering an environment where students can succeed, feel supported, and also challenged has left an indelible mark on our school. Throughout her career, Anne-Marie has built a remarkable collection of lessons and experience that cater to all students in PE. She consistently provided motivation and created an environment infused with a can-do attitude, whether that was during a fitness test, mat ball, our volleyball unit, or project adventure. Anne-Marie has also been, well, here at Trotter, school culture is so critical, and it's important to point out that Anne-Marie has been the driving force and architect behind so many of the most memorable events here at Trotter. Her dedication to ensuring the success of events like Field Day, the Fun Run, and of course the Volleyball Marathon has been unwavering. These events have not only brought joy and excitement to our students, but has also strengthened our school community. As a dedicated faculty member, Anne-Marie has earned the admiration and respect of her colleagues. Although she'll be retiring at the end of the year, the elements of her work and her tireless commitment will continue to inspire us. We wish her nothing but the best in her retirement and thank her for her years of service.
All right, next is Lori Weiner. She started in Y2K, so it's 2001. She has been a second grade teacher and a library media specialist for since 2017. She is a dedicated advocate of students. She's been so committed to making sure that our students are prepared for the next grade level, the next school. I think her work in the library, she touches all of the students at Finn Elementary, and students are better for it. She is the heart of Finn School, and she will be sorely missed, and Principal Ryan has a few words to say as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg. Lori is definitely going to be missed. She's instilled curiosity, imagination, and a deep love of reading in every student who enters the library, media center, stores. She shows students that books are more than just bound pages. They're portals to a new world. Anyone who's ever had the pleasure of witnessing Lori in action knows the magic that she brings to the library, the sparkle in her students' eyes as she's showcasing new books, authors, their history, and how they became authors. Lori also served as our liaison for Southborough seniors at Finn, bringing a dozen plus senior volunteers throughout the year, bridging the gap between generations through the power of books and community engagement. I would describe Lori as a professional who operated by a few basic principles. Always keep your voice soft, but let your actions speak volumes, and make the library a place where stories come alive, where knowledge is free. Lori, the Finn School is going to miss you, and we wish you health and happiness in your next chapter, a little pun, in life.
And lastly, Donna Sergi. She began her journey in our district in 2004, and she has been administrative assistant at Woodward, and I like to call her the director of first impressions. She is the first face that you see when you walk in Woodward. She is always pleasant, smiling. She is always willing to talk and make you feel welcomed into the office. She has been instrumental in leading the work at Woodward, being the quarterback, making sure that Principal Mucci is on time, on target, on schedule, keeping to his due dates. And I think she will be sorely missed by faculty, staff, students, and parents. And Steve Mucci has a few words to say.
I do, Greg, and you couldn't be more right with all those deadlines and things. Donna has done a great job, and that's no small feat. It's bittersweet for us as we bid farewell to Donna, or Miss Sergi, as she's known by students and families. Donna has been a part of Woodward since the beginning, helping to open the building in 2004. Since the first day, Donna has been an integral part of the school community and an incredible resource to staff and families. During her time, she has demonstrated unparalleled dedication, professionalism, and a commitment to our students, families, and colleagues. Her presence in the front office has been a constant source of stability, and her contributions have been vital to Woodward's success. Over the years, I have sincerely appreciated Donna's thoughtfulness, organization, and especially her stories and quips. She has kept me on my toes and has been a source of support for me and so many others. Her warm smile and friendly demeanor have welcomed countless students, parents, and visitors over the years. She has been the reassuring voice on the phone for families and problem solver extraordinaire. Her ability to juggle a multitude of tasks with grace and efficiency rivals most superheroes. Donna's retirement is well-deserved, yet it leaves a void that will be hard to fill. Donna, we will miss your guidance, your support, friendship, and most of all, your presence at Woodward. Congratulations. I wish you the best.
So congratulations to our retirees, and again, 71 years of experience. We are grateful for your dedication to the kids in our district, and we wish you well, and you are always welcome to sub.
I would just like to say that what a pleasure it has been working in Southborough schools because of the atmosphere that exists within the buildings and because of the compassion and care that is shown to the students. It's been a wonderful place to work. I can't have imagined it being better. And I think that this kind of thing always comes from the top down. So I would really like to thank Mr. Martineau, Mrs. Reinhorn, Mr. Lavoy, Mr. Hershuk, and Mr. Kittleson for myself, because they are the principals that I taught under. So creating a wonderful environment to come to work, and one that was caring and compassionate for the students, has been just a joy to me. So I am grateful to have worked in Southborough schools. Thank you.
Thank you, and on behalf of the school committee, we all wish you well in your next endeavors, and hopefully that means more family time for all of you. And with that, we are going to take a brief recess to allow our retirees to gather in the lobby, and anybody who wants to give them well wishes are more than welcome to do that. So I'm going to move that we go into recess at 6:41 p.m. and to return at 6:50. Is there a second? All in favor? Okay, 4-0. Thank you, we're in recess. Okay, so we're back in session at 6:50 p.m. And next order of business on our agenda is public comment. So we actually have a public comment policy which is listed on our school website. It's number B330. And I'm just going to read a few points out of this policy just so that we can have some ground rules. In general, the public comment policy states that we will have a 15-minute segment of public comment. We do have 2 segments of public comment listed on our agenda tonight, which is normal for our regular session meetings. And each speaker should limit their comments to 3 minutes. So I'm going to ask Mr. Challen to my right to keep time of those comments, and he will give you a gentle warning when your time is up. And the topics for discussion should be under the purview of the school committee, so topics that we are responsible for. And those are the general, I mean, obviously the public comment memo is, or policy is long, so I'm not gonna waste time reading it, but those are the general ground rules. And at the end of the meeting, if you didn't get a chance to speak in this public comment session, then in the second one, at the will of the committee, we can talk about if we're going to go longer than the 15 minutes or not. Okay? And also you need to say your name and address before you start speaking for the record so that we can put it in the minutes. And if most importantly, we don't respond in public comment. So this is a listening session for us. You tell us what you want us to know. And then if appropriate, you're more than welcome to send me an email after the meeting if you're looking for a response. We can try to direct that to the appropriate party. It's just the general school committee chair email, which is listed on the website. So with that, you can go to either microphone. They should be hot. You probably just have to get really close, like how I'm getting close to the microphone just so that everybody can hear. Okay?
Andrea Hamilton, 119 Northborough Road. So I'm going to read a petition that's been circulating for the last 2 days. This petition comes out of an ad hoc group that came together to try and figure out how to move forwards from the concerns coming out of Neary and the breach of trust with district administration. It's a relatively fluid group, but at its core is about a dozen families split between parents from the impacted Neary class and other community members looking to find a path forwards. This petition represents a lot of background work to try to put together the pieces of what has happened over the last few months. It's been live for a little under 48 hours, and as of 6 o'clock tonight, it had 121 signatures. 107 of those were self-identified as from Southborough, 9 from Northborough, and 5 as others. I have the list, and I will give it to the school committee, and I can also share an updated list before the regional meeting tomorrow. So the core values of the Ennisboro District are as follows: integrity, empathy, inclusivity, equity, perseverance, and respect. These 6 words provide the backbone to our district policies and the actions of its children, families, and staff. We report here a grave violation of these values. one that seeps into the highest levels of our district administration and belies their commitment to providing a safe and equal education to all of our children. The events that transpired in a 5th grade classroom at Erie have become national news. In January, elementary school children were auctioned as slaves. A seasoned educator turned the trauma at the heart of our nation's founding into a game. In doing so, she failed to create a safe learning environment for her students. A child reported the auction to their parents, who in turn raised a complaint with the school principal. Had this ugly moment been met with swift and decisive action, professional development, curriculum review, a broader look at our district-level implementation of DEI, we could be having a very different conversation today. But instead, the principal chose inaction. No notification to parents, no training, no reporting up. In short, a credible accusation of a racist action in a classroom was swept under the rug. But predictably, our demons do not stay hidden. In April of this year, a second incident occurred when the N-word was said by the same educator to the same students, this time in the presence of a 4th grade buddy class. Parents again raised concerns, and Superintendent Martineau became involved. 2 serious accusations of racially charged actions by a teacher, troubling questions about the lack of action by a senior administrator, and yet the superintendent did not begin an immediate investigation. Instead, under Superintendent Martineau's leadership, the teacher and principal engaged in a series of back-to-back video calls with classroom parents. In these calls, parents were misled about the events that occurred in the classroom, and an educator's public humiliation replaced due process. Under Superintendent Martineau's leadership, the teacher then returned to the classroom where she retaliated against the student who originally reported the incidents, while the principal stood in the room and did nothing. For the 3rd time, it took parental complaint to jar the district into action.
Andrea, sorry, we're at 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'm going to keep reading it. It's Lisa Giancaitis. It's 3 Johnson Road. Both the teacher and principal were put on administrative leave to preserve the integrity of the investigation. The allegations in the classroom implicate senior district administrators and include actions taken by the superintendent himself. And yet, the choice was made for the investigation to be conducted internally by the district's own director of HR. While on administrative leave, the principal continued to interact with district families on remote meetings. In one case, unexpectedly joining an IEP team meeting for a child in the impacted classroom. Ultimately, the principal was allowed to return to the building while under active investigation. She was still under investigation when she participated in a meeting with Superintendent Martineau and class families to discuss the investigation findings. These actions raised troubling questions about the integrity of the investigation and the seriousness with which the district has taken any of these concerns. Additionally, in a room where allegations of racially charged action were diminished and ignored, the district had also consolidated a significant number of students with disabilities that impact their learning, i.e. children on IEPs. Per special education law, students with disabilities and students without disabilities must be placed in the same setting to the maximum extent appropriate. In other words, we do not take lightly the segregation and removal of disabled students in our schools. The mere existence of this classroom is problematic, and the district has further proved unwilling to answer basic questions about the comparative makeup of other 5th grade classrooms, whether there are additional high needs cohorts in the classroom, how services are provided in a room of such high level of need, or if the depth and breadth of instruction in this classroom was equal to that of the rest of 5th grade. Superintendent Martineau himself has misled parents on the number of IEP students in the classroom, telling a parent behind closed doors that it was no more than 4 or 5, when in fact the classroom contained 7. And how has the district administration opted to treat this room of vulnerable learners in the aftermath of 3 serious allegations against a trusted adult? After the teacher was removed, the district first tried to pass off a long-term sub as her replacement instead of a state-licensed educator. The sub was not given access to any of the children's IEPs. Students have been scolded in silence for raising predictable questions about whether their teacher will return. Parents have had to learn about things that happen to their children through a district-wide email blasted out by the school superintendent. This has been a profound failure by supposed experts to understand and respond to the needs of children. The failures outlined here are many and complex. There are racially charged incidents, retaliation against a child, and a lack of action in the face of serious race-based concerns. There is the disregard for the support needs of the children experiencing the fallout from the incident, and an investigation that feels perfunctory at best. This is a failure to provide students an education in the least restrictive environment and a lack of transparency around district data, decisions, and process. Then there are the voices of families from across the years that are now coming forward to share how they too have reported concerns of harassment and discrimination in our schools.
Lisa, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you there. That's the 3 minutes.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Stephanie Wilson, 188 Middle Road. And at the center of all this is an administration that speaks nicely of its commitment to educational equity while simultaneously refusing to lead with anything more than words. It is this inaction that the events of this fifth grade classroom were allowed to fester. It is in this inaction that these children's civil rights will continue to go unmet. We call for the following: the immediate dismissal of Principal Valente. We do not have confidence in her continued leadership in our schools. The immediate suspension of Superintendent Martineau while an independent investigation is undertaken. A new investigation run and managed by an external third party. This investigation must look into both events described here and broader concerns about civil rights reporting and violation within the district. A timeline and budgetary priority for the actions outlined in the district equity audit. This audit was completed over 2 years ago and provides an action roadmap to ensure a fair and equitable education for all students. Empty words are not enough. We require transparency and accountability from an administration that has thus far evaded either. Until then, the district will continue to fail to meet its core values and fail the children whose education and safety we entrust in our schools.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. We're going to move along to our next agenda item. And just to give everybody a heads up, at the will of the committee, I am going to go out of order. We're going to take the principal's reports first, and then we're going to go to office hours number 7, if the committee is okay with that. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So we'll do the principal report next. And I think we just have some technology to set up.
let's not wait for the technology, and if principals can give just a brief update of the events that have happened over the past.
Oh, sure, yeah. So I'd like to start by just talking about the dance-a-thon that we had. We raised...
Yeah.
So through our dance-a-thon, our fundraising effort, we raised close to $30,000 through our SOS going directly back to the Finn School for enrichment activities, field trips, etc. Also want to highlight Jen Henry in her efforts recently, I think it was last weekend, for the 3rd annual preschool fair, where Jen had, I think it was 200 and some odd families, vendors, so very popular event. Next, just reinforcing our mindful moments, our mindfulness initiative at the Finn School, and with the spring, we were able to help our kids come outside, take advantage of how mindfulness and nature intertwine. It's better if we had slides to go with it, so just use your imagination. And then we had a wide variety of some research projects. Imagine some scaffolding, some archway bridges that were not bombarded by tugboats or knocked over. But we had kids constructing all sorts of wonderful indoor recess activities. In our math, in the area of math, for ST Math, we actually exceeded our goal of 80% and ended the school year at 93% for all of our students advancing past their puzzle goals. So that was a huge accomplishment. So, I will go back to the first slide. Who's doing this? You? All right, so as I mentioned before, the dance-a-thon, some pictures of the Finn students dancing the preschool K-1, raised quite a bit of money. Excellent. Next slide. Also want to highlight the parent, senior, and community volunteers. I mentioned our senior volunteers. We have over a dozen at the Finn School. Lori was our liaison. We also have lunch helpers where we end up having to pay people off in order to come into the Finn School to help in the lunchroom. That's a joke. So now we're on to mindful moments. These are some examples of students outside, again, taking mindful moments as they're part of nature. Next slide, please. Okay. Okay, that's right. Walk to School Wednesdays, spearheaded by Joan Provincial. We get a large crowd of students walking to school from the Art Center to the Finn School. And then we talked about parent, senior, community volunteers. Preschool, kindergarten, infant, our first grade farewell fun day, which was past 2 weeks, getting kids into that mindset of bringing closure to the school year and celebrating all their accomplishments and hard work. And then I would like to end with just the aspect of bringing closure to the school year, and this is appropriate for all of us. The work that we do from Finn to Woodward to Neary, to Trotter, in helping all of our students become prepared for that next transition, be it internal from grade to grade or from building to building. There's a tremendous amount of work that we do in preparing our students for their next grade and celebrating their accomplishments.
Thank you, Clayton. I'll start and share some updates from the year from Woodward. I think a theme that runs through a lot of the updates and events that we've had is just the community connection. The generous Southborough community, our SOS, who have supported so much of the work that we've done, who have fundraised to great lengths to make sure that we're providing the best education to students possible, and I think we are doing that. I will start by saying that the Color Run was a huge fundraiser at the beginning of the school year. We raised over $18,000 for Woodward students. We had a ton of community support for that. That is a real community event where parents are cheering on students on the sidelines, so that is a lot of fun. Walking school bus is a great way to start our school day. We've had consistent participation in our walking school bus throughout the course of the year, whether it be our fall sessions or our spring sessions, with anywhere from 12 to 20 students taking part. And it's a great way for our community, parents, families to be connected to our classroom teachers as well as students. Our Scholastic Book Fair, again, was a huge undertaking by our SOS. We raised nearly $7,000 and put over 1,000 books in the hands of students over the course of the year. High touch, high tech. Next slide. Thanks to SOS, second and third grade students experienced high touch, high tech. Students in second grade learned about the states that matter and saw what can happen when we mix some safe chemicals together. You can see those balloons are about to explode, but they are wearing safety glasses. Next slide is our SEL and mindfulness classrooms. Through partnership with Emma Bartolini, who I saw here today, students have become more mindful, and we've had great participation, whether it be through yoga, instructing of teachers, or participation during our field day. On that last slide, we also welcomed Michelle Carr, the principal of the Milliken School, as well as Jen Henry, early childhood coordinator, and they brought their therapy dogs, Betty and Lily, to work with students and talk about the importance of that relationship in our community. Lunch takeover, I see Lieutenant Sean McCarthy in the background. He was there as part of our lunch takeover and connection with our Southborough Police Department. ST Math, as Principal Ryan mentioned, we exceeded our progress goal this year, which was set at 80%. We reached 93%, and this is just one of our ST Math challenges. ST Math was awarded through the 1-8 Foundation grant, and we were very lucky to have that this year and into next. Again, speaking to the partnerships, Southborough Fire Department brought the SAFE program, which is a student awareness of fire education, to Woodward. We had over 3 assemblies, presentations, and then participated in field day events and activities. We are incredibly grateful to Brittany Doan, who is leading that work. Finally, field trips. We had SOS completely sponsor our field trips this year. We're incredibly grateful. Second grade students visited the Southwick Zoo. Third grade students visited the Ecotarium in Worcester. And then we also sat in this auditorium for a performance of the Honk Junior this year. Lastly, field day. Again, community partnerships. This was a huge undertaking by Ms. Good, as well as so many community members and parent volunteers. We had the Southborough Fire Department there. We had Southborough Public Library, as well as, again, Mindful Minutes with Ms. Bartolini. That was rushed, but I'm sorry.
And I'm proud to share our work at Neary this year. It's a walk through our year. Every year for the past, beyond my years, but it's 10 years, we do a picture on the hill at the beginning of the year. This is a huge undertaking on the part of Jen Churio, a 5th grade teacher who coordinates almost over 300 of us getting up on the hill. This year's word was Neary, and we have central office staff who joined us as well. We've done USA in the past, we've done Hello, we've done Hearts. It truly brings us together as a community to launch our year together. Next slide. Our Neary Fun Run, thanks to our SOS, this is our big fundraiser for the year. raising money to support the work within the building, bringing in author, bringing in, we had Ooch today, thanks to our SOS, and it funds our field trips as well. Community Read Day. Chief Newell, you can see in the picture, we welcome members of the community into our classrooms. Our reading specialist, Dave Lang, and our wonderful library media specialist, Todd Matthew, help coordinate this, and they come in, community members come in and read to the students from the central office, as well as throughout our community. So that's at the beginning of our year as well. Next slide. Fun Run, a 5th grade C course is a tradition at Neary where 5th graders, as part of their running curriculum, they come together and they run the C course. It's a big event. You can see each of the classes they create tie-dye t-shirts. They run, parents cheer them on, 4th graders come out to cheer them on. This is a hugely anticipated tradition at Neary that happens just before our Thanksgiving break. Author visit, thanks to Mrs. Matthew again for bringing our author in, as well as SOS for supporting. Dan Gemeinhardt joined us. He was able, some students were able to participate in a lunch with him. He talked about his process as an author and how it's okay to make mistakes and write again and reflect on your writing, and really the writer's process, and the students were able to ask questions of him, and so I thank you out to our SOS for bringing Dan to our school. And we had our band and orchestra concerts. We do, I believe, 9 concerts per year. Our last, just the other day, our Neary band marched around the whole school. It takes all year for our students to be able to march and play around the entire school. And each concert is just a celebration of the performers and the work that Mrs. Spignese and Ms. Sherman put into teaching our performers, beginners, as well as those students who have played for a few years, to create such beautiful music together and be able to share that with families at our concerts. And Crochet for Kindness, thank you to Kristen Tav for coordinating this community service project for us, where students created, many of our students learned to crochet. Many of our staff tried to learn to crochet. I attempted it. I'm not sure what I created, but I tried. And each little creation had a postcard inside. They were placed all over the community and abroad. They were all over, and folks found them. We had a QR code. They took a snap of the QR code, and then they uploaded their photos and shared where they were found. So this is just one of our students at Neary at the top. And then 2 others that were found throughout the community. So that was, thank you to Kristen Tabb for coordinating that. And the Bionic Project, we were able to bring this amazing project to our students in March as part of Disabilities Awareness Month. And they came in, these 2 amputee athletes came in, and they are both professional soccer players as well as former teachers. They came in and talked to our students as a whole school about perseverance and kindness and acceptance, and then each classroom was able to have an individual session playing soccer with our 2 athletes. And Art on the Trails, which is coming up, and I'm going to give a little plug to Mrs. Johnson because she would love anyone to come out on Saturday to help with the installation. Our students have been working on what is called Rooted in Nature. So they are actively preparing this for installation, and even if you can't come out and help install, it'll be up for, I believe, through September. So please come out and visit, and Art on the Trails. And similar to what Principal Bucci shared, we had our Southborough Police Department lunch takeover on Friday. They did an amazing job. They were really meticulous in how much they put on each student's trays. The students were so excited to see them, and it was a great community connection for our students and our staff.
What I'm going to highlight actually just has taken place from May 1st until June 11th. So it's been a busy place around Trout here. We hosted Neary Step Up Day. We brought the whole Neary team up here. A lot of great questions. A lot of questions about recess. I'd like to thank Mr. Kittleson for organizing this and the Neary team as well. The Woosocks trip, or as I like to call the shortest field trip in the history of field trips. It was on May 24th. It was thunderstorms came in. We got students there. They ate some ice cream, had some hot dogs, and did not see one pitch. But they were great. They rolled with it. They came back. We watched the Sandlot in here, and we have a good laugh about it. So there it is. I also want to recognize the return of softball. Softball has not run for the last 5 or 6 years. We had a group of ambitious athletes and parents to help revive this, work with the town to bring the softball program back this year, and we're very happy to see its return. I am so glad that Mr. Martineau asked me for pictures because this could not be transferred without folks seeing this. Aileen Lee, an 8th grader, was recognized by Tufts University and received the Scholastic Writing and Art Award for this piece of art. This is done through colored pencils. And there's a story behind it about beards being shaved in China. She really focused on light. And when I saw this, as you all are, was just absolutely amazed by this contribution. So. We have, as part of our 8th grade's curriculum, the civics curriculum, students are required to create a civics action project where they look to build an initiative or reform within the school-wide community, within the town. Julie Jenks and Paul Basta, our teachers, helped lead this work. Our students worked with town boards within our community. They worked with the administration to improve pathways throughout town, to make some adaptive playgrounds. There's going to be some clothing drives. They want to look at extracurriculars, athletics, and electives here at Trotter. The highlight of this is their presentations. When you get to hear them talk about their research and their passion, it is very motivating. One great tradition that we have across the district is Titan Games. We had about a dozen volunteers and about half a dozen athletes go over to the Gonkplex for their Olympic Games in May. And it was a great community event as well. Annually, Mrs. Bachman and the art elective classes put together their art show. We probably display that in the lobby for the community to see. Mr. Clark is here. I want to recognize Mr. Clark and Jazz Night. Mr. Clark was able to secure a professional musician, Summer Camargo. She is a trumpetist for the Saturday Night Live band, and she rehearsed with our jazz band and performed with our jazz band last Thursday. It was a wonderful event and a great experience, and that would not have been possible without the hard work and dedication of Mr. Clark. We also had Greek and Roman Day for our 7th graders. To the left, we hosted the first time ever a presentation called Cherry of the Sun with the support of SOS, which is a one-man show that does, a presentation on Greek mythology. And the great part about it is the actor brings our students up for some acting and some improv. It was a great day overall. And last but not least, as part of our volleyball marathon rewards, SOS sponsors Sunday City, and the beauty about this event is its simplicity. We just have our kids out on the field. They do lawn games, kickball, listen to music. They rotate through about 3 stations, and they have some ice cream. So.
Great, thanks, Thank you all for the updates. Does anybody have any questions or comments for any of the principals individually or as a group? Okay, I have just a few comments. So I think I need a separate color on my calendar to keep up with all of the end of the year events that parents are allowed to attend. So I want to recognize that a lot of the parents take time out of their schedules to be able to attend those wonderful events, and it's a lot of effort, I know, on the teachers to get the kids organized to be able to participate in all of those. So appreciate all the effort that goes in there. And I think you do a great job of kind of doing your send-offs for every grade. I have two who are transitioning, and one's pretty upset about leaving. So, recognizing that it's hard every time they switch schools. And the last comment is actually not related to my own experience with my kids, but the civics project that exists at Trotter. I think your two teachers do a fabulous job, Mr. Basta and Mrs. Jenks. This is the second year I've gotten to go to the showcase, and I think that the kids are really excited about engaging in their projects and wanting to. I think every year they're getting more kind of traction and engagement with the community. So I think that's a testament to the leadership that's going on at Trotter. So just from a school committee member observation. So nice work on that. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Is this working? So I would just like to say that the one event I attended was the Memorial Day concert at Woodward, and I thought it was fabulous. Those kids, and the music and just the feeling. So well done. It was a great event.
Thanks, Robert. If I had more slides, I would have put up our concerts.
I agree. I just couldn't pick one kid over the other to highlight anything. So. All right, so that we're good on that topic. Great, and thank you again for the updates and for the pictures too. I think it's nice to see it in action. Okay, so next we're going to go to number 7, which is office hours. So last week, Roger and I conducted 2 sessions of office hours on Tuesday, and I think one of the takeaways from that is that the school committee should commit to doing regular office hours. I think there was a lot of good feedback in those sessions, and so that's something that I'd like to install for this coming school year. We don't need to talk about what the schedule will look like tonight, but I think if we could kind of think about topics that we can highlight that we're working on, like when we're in budget season, I think we should have budget priorities be as one of the things that we can have Parent Square send out to say, school committee's currently talking about budget priorities, and guess what, they're having office hours next week if anybody wants to weigh in on that. Office hours are not limited to an agenda, and it is not a quorum of this committee. We are bound by open meeting law, so we would have at a maximum 2 school committee members in those office hours. So just food for thought on that, but I do want to make that recommendation to the committee. Okay, so next, I have a memo in response to the office hours as well as other avenues from last week that I'm going to actually read the entire memo. And it's addressed to Superintendent Martineau. The Southborough School Committee conducted 2 office hour sessions on Tuesday, June 4th, 2024 for approximately 4.5 hours. Roger Talon and I facilitated both sessions and noted what was communicated. We offered sessions for community members to provide feedback given the recent incidents at Neary School. This was my first time doing office hours for the school committee, and with approximately 15 to 20 people in each session, we had a group discussion rather than individual discussions. During office hours, 3 main themes emerged. questions and comments about the investigation and how the administration handled it, the actual incidents and recommendations regarding the next steps to benefit students and teachers, and special education concerns. After categorizing all of my notes from office hours, emails, and individual conversations, I propose the following. 1. Create a FAQ document with the questions that have been generated. This will be a fact-based document and be made available on the website when it is complete. 2. Work through the summer on an action plan based on feedback from the community. The administration also has been developing action items, so I want to be thoughtful and comprehensive about this plan. Of the people who attended, there was a significant amount of feedback regarding policy review, training recommendations, enhanced communication with the community, and more. 3. Include community updates on progress as a standing agenda item for Southborough School Committee meetings. 4. Immediately request the initiation of an external audit of the internal investigation to be completed within 2 months and provide the report directly to the school committee chair. 5. The district needs to provide opportunities for discussions and conversations around special education and answer the questions on the FAQ. 6. Continue to provide opportunities to engage families in soliciting feedback in order to collect more comprehensive data. 7. The school committee chair needs to work collaboratively with the chair of the region and the chair of the union to ensure the superintendent's goals and evaluation of these goals address concerns raised through these incidents. I've received questions about the process and protocols regarding the accountability of the superintendent, including a question directly asking, what is the process for removing the superintendent? I think it is important that the public understands this process. The Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee is composed of 10 members. The Superintendency Union Number 3 committee comprises 3 Southborough K-8 school committee members and 3 Northborough K-8 school committee members, for 6 in total. Per the regional agreement, together, the 16 members have responsibility for the employment of the superintendent. I vote for removal by 2/3 of the 16 members held in executive session would be required to remove the superintendent. We have a lot of work to do as a district, and I am committed to continue to listen and work collaboratively to make improvements. And that's signed by myself, Chelsea Malinowski, and this is my memo to the superintendent because the school committee cannot deliberate outside of a meeting. So this is my feedback based on the feedback that we've received thus far. And I also want to say that we do have a lot of work to do, and we need to continue to support our educators in doing that great work so that it benefits all of our students.
Through the chair, I can.
Go ahead.
So first of all, thank you for the memo and the recommendations. As a superintendent, I am accountable to the community, the district, and most importantly, the students. And I am committed to rebuilding trust. When mistakes are made, I believe in accountability, repair, engaging and learning, and doing better. And I believe 2 things can be true at the same time. A district or school can have many positive assets, and while there is need for improvement. I also want to be clear that a single teacher's actions do not represent all teachers. There are outstanding teachers throughout the system and at Neary who do amazing work with students. I'm committed to the repair work. I do take responsibility and will work with faculty, staff, and district leaders to develop and implement a roadmap to improve. I will share the roadmap with the community in August, but I do want to highlight a few actions that have begun. First, we engaged in an equity audit that concluded at the end of 2022. As part of that work, we are auditing progress towards those goals set out in the audit. That is taking place. That will include surveys of students, faculty and staff, as well as families and community. We already have reached out to experts in the field of DEI and have started building partnerships and networking to bring expertise into the district. We're working on developing a professional development plan focusing on culturally competent pedagogy that will be implemented in the fall to accelerate the professional development of all faculty and staff. We're also committed and have scheduled opportunities to strengthen our internal reporting and investigatory procedures by conducting formal training for all school and district leaders. And lastly, we're committed to hiring a director of community engagement and belonging who can help bring coherence and be the most knowledgeable person in our district in this area and help lead us forward. And again, I'm committed to this work and will provide a more detailed plan to the committee in August.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the committee?
So just one comment. Attending both of the sessions, we heard a lot of things, and even subsequent to that, there's a lot of information going around. That information comes from social media, it comes from the news, it came from public comment tonight. So I find myself being guilty of confirmation bias, I think, which actually I think most of my friends and colleagues are also. I wait till I hear something that kind of matches what I like or what I want to believe, so that all of a sudden becomes fact. But I just want to caution folks, and I don't think I need to caution folks. I think that it's hard to know sometimes what's accurate and what's not. So if you have a concern about something being accurate, feel free to reach out to the school committee. If we know, we'll tell you. If we don't know, we'll find out and tell you. So just wanted to share that. The one item that I think we might need to vote on relates to the audit of the investigation. We heard at office hours, and I think again tonight, that a lot of folks were concerned about the investigation. So I'm going to make a motion, and then we'll discuss it, that we authorize the chair to go forward and have an external investigation, which would then, audit of the investigation, which would then just report back to the chair. Thoughts? Other ideas? I think we, to go forward with this, I think I need a second to that motion, and then the chair can go forward and make that happen.
Just for Just for clarity's sake, the goal of that audit is going to be what? If you had to boil it down to a couple bullets?
Yeah, so I think it's the process of the investigation, the timing of the investigation, process and timing, and see if there's any findings from that.
And I guess to add, to dovetail into what Alan just said, perhaps having a date to which that would be complete, and then the degree to which the transparency would be shared with the community, what the plan is for that.
Yeah, so I did say that do this within 2 months.
2 months, okay.
I couldn't do that unilaterally without a vote tonight, so I haven't engaged in initiating that. So once I have that authorization, then I can go ahead and do that. And I think as transparent as we can be, as the Mass General Law allows us to be, that's what the goal is. So we're bound to certain with, MGO, so. Okay, so Roger made a motion. Okay, second, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is organization structure overview, which is number 2 under new business.
Sure, so seeing that there are 2 new members joining the committee, we thought we'd spend a few minutes just talking about our district and how we're organized, what positions are shared across the 3 districts as a start to the learning process of who we are. So for all intents and purposes, we are 10 schools, 3 districts, 1 community of learners. We have the pre-K through 8 public schools of Southborough, which is responsible for budget, policies, and evaluating the superintendent. We also have the pre-K through 8 Northborough School Committee, responsible for the same 3 areas for the town of Northborough. And then we also have the region, which is where we regionalize, which is 9 through 12. And again, the regional has its own governance, is in charge of budget, policy, and evaluating the superintendent. I think it's important to note that on the organizational chart, you'll notice that the positions that are highlighted in red are shared across the 3 districts. So one of the benefits of being in this model is that it's economies of scale, and we're able to share resources and expertise. So the way the process is, or the agreement is that salaries are distributed 40% to Northborough, 30% to Southborough, and 30% to the region.
You don't know?
For example, if you have a $1,000 position, Northborough is responsible for $40,000, Southborough is responsible for $30,000, and then the region is responsible for the remaining. One of the benefits of our structure is shared leadership. So we do operate under the same strategic plan. We bring coherence to the work across the 3 districts. We also work together collaboratively to provide a comprehensive professional development plan. And when we work together, for example, an equity audit, the equity audit is shared across the 3 districts. So there's a cost share, but also a benefit in the recommendations coming up with a plan that not only benefits public schools of Southborough, but the 2 other districts. The positions that you see that are in purple are split funded. They do not, these positions do not work at regional high school. So we have 3 positions split funded between Northborough and Southborough, and that's 50-50 cost share. Then you have the blue positions, which are regionally funded only. Southborough funded positions only are in yellow, and then Northborough funded only positions are in green. So we are a unique system. There are not a lot of districts across the Commonwealth that are organized in the way we are. But there are a lot of benefits in terms of what we can bring to each district's shared knowledge, shared expertise, and really working collaboratively as 10 schools, 3 districts, and 1 community of learners.
Thank you. Questions, comments on this?
I'm just going to jump back to item number 2 in the memo that sent to the superintendent, and one of the items there is policy reviews. I just want to make a comment about policies. With a regional structure where you've got 3 school committees. A while ago, these policies, many of these policies were separate. So one of the things that we're working on and have worked on is where possible, we're trying to be consistent, in policies across the district. It's not always, it's not a perfect situation because sometimes high school policies really have to be a little different than K through 8. But where possible, we're trying to have these be consistent so that we don't have to worry about different sets of policies in the different school systems.
Thank you. Laura, any comment on this? Okay. I thought it was important that we look at it this way because when we get into budget conversations, the different funding sources are really important too, and Becky does a great job of kind of laying out where things are coming from. But also, as you look at budget priorities and it's a shared position, then you need the other town to commit to that as well. So I thought this was a good overview and a good timing to bring this in. So thank you. Thanks, Greg. Okay, next we have some guests joining us for the social emotional learning presentation. So yes. Do you want to yeah. So we have Jennifer Lipton O'Connor and Mary Ellen Duggan who put this presentation together. And if you go back to the prior org chart, I think they're all in red. Okay. Your red color.
Red. Okay. Is this on? Okay. Everybody can hear me. So I'm Jennifer Lipton, the Social Emotional Learning Coordinator, and Mary Ellen Duggan is in the audience. She's my co-presenter. She is our Wellness Coordinator and Nurse Leader. So thank you to the committee for the opportunity to give this sort of end of the year summary and sharing some of the work that has been done this year here in Southborough. And I just always want to acknowledge all of the educators who are behind all of this work. I'm just the person sort of who had to stay up late and miss the Celtics game to be here, but this represents a lot of people's work. Next slide. So I always like to start with our strategic objectives. One of our priorities as a district is healthy and balanced learners, and that's defined as prioritizing the social, emotional, and physical well-being of our students. And I always like to share this image on the right here, which is an image from the Department of Education. It's our multi-tiered system of support, and it's something that we're always thinking about as one of our guiding principles, thinking about the different levels of support that we provide students, and thinking about our universal supports, what we often call Tier 1, and then more targeted and intensive supports for students, and that applies to academic, behavioral, and social emotional well-being. And we also always want to be thinking about using data sources to determine which students need additional targeted or intensive supports, and then making sure that those supports are evidence-based resources. So that sort of guides a lot of this work that I'll share tonight. Okay, so some of our highlights are this year was a big year for social emotional learning here in Southborough. It was the first year of our systematic implementation of our second step curriculum. So that's our K-5 Tier 1 social skills curriculum. There's a lot of teachers in this room who did really hard work learning this platform and using it this year. And the idea of this, I'll get into on the next slide and go through some of the units, but the idea is really to have a consistent set of expectations and language for students as they transition from kindergarten through 5th grade and then into trot year, so that students know whether they're in the lunchroom, on the bus, in their homeroom, that the same set of expectations exist, and that all the adults are using similar language for students. So that's been really exciting here in Southborough this year. We also continue to have our building-based SEL leaders in each of our elementary school. And I always like to give a shout out to them. Jocelyn and Kathy from Finn. We have Miriam and Joy here tonight from the Neary School, and Jenny, who's from Woodward. So those 5 SEL leaders have also worked with the Northborough counterparts to really, a big part of their work is really to help their schools support that second step of implementation. So thank you to all those folks. We've continued to implement our SEL Universal Screener this year, and we're really excited about using the Analytic View data dashboard to be able to look at this screening data so that we can look at individual student data and then also groups of students looking at grade level data, school level data, and really being able to look at students as a whole in that holistic view of student achievement. We continue to have collaboration with student support services, the school psychologists, behavior specialists, our various counselors. We have monthly meetings, again, looking at that MTSS model to explore how we're supporting all learners within our grade levels. Another big piece of our work this year and beyond will be reviewing the new comprehensive health and PE guidelines that the Department of Education finally passed this year. I think we shared it since 1999 was the last time they passed them. So that's a huge change. And I think Mary Ellen and I have really been looking at those as kind of wellness, thinking about our health, PE, social emotional learning, all through this new guidelines from DESE. I think it's always nice when DESE gives you sort of a vehicle to kind of explore what you're doing and review your practices. So that's allowed us to do some of that work this year and beyond. We've also been exploring wellness days and how to really make them meaningful for our students and adults. I know the committee has agreed to have those be half days for students next year, so I think that allows a lot of opportunities for professional development for staff as well. And Mary Ellen and I have been working with some of our local town agencies on various grant opportunities. And I just have to say that there's a lot of opioid money in both the towns of Northborough and Southborough that finally people are realizing that actually proactive social emotional learning and wellness work actually prevents later substance use. So that's, we're trying to tap into some of those funds as well to pay for some of these school initiatives. So that's ongoing partnership work that we're doing. I'm going to get in another slide. Some of the findings from the Metro West Health Foundation survey. We actually just hot off the presses got some of our data, so we'll share some of our first pass at analyzing that data in a minute. And then I always want to mention that another piece of our work that sometimes isn't always obvious to people is that Say Something Anonymous tip line and our collaboration with our police department and school resource officer. The Say Something tip line, for those of you who don't know, is just another layer of support for our students to share any information that they're concerned about with an adult, and it's through the Sandy Hook Foundation. So we always encourage students to talk to an adult directly, but if they're not comfortable with that, the tip line is another way for students to share any information they're concerned about. So that's kind of the bullet highlights, and I just want to go into a couple areas in more detail. So I alluded to the second step. I think I've mentioned that in a couple of our meetings. So that's the evidence-based curriculum we've adopted in both towns. So this is sort of the scope and sequence for our K-5 students. There's the 4 core units, which are growth mindset and goal setting, emotion management, empathy and kindness, and problem solving. And then there's a set of bullying prevention lessons. And all of these units progress from kindergarten to 5th grade. And over time, this is only our first year of using this program, but over time, our students will really have that consistent language and expectations, and our educators will have a shared understanding and language that we can use with our students. So again, I just really want to thank the educators for taking this new curricular resource this year and really using it in really positive ways for our students. And I want to also acknowledge they were also doing this while they were taking on the Wit and Wisdom curriculum for our ELA work, which was also a big undertaking for our teachers. So I think that it's been a really positive experience so far. We've just been collecting feedback from our educators, and I think my takeaway is that it's been a pretty successful launch this year. And just to add one piece to this, I've been working with our SEL leaders and our NSPAC advisory board, and one of the projects we're continuing to expand Second Step and link it with some books on disability awareness. And so as we continue to explore the materials of Second Step, we'll have some other ways to infuse some of those themes into our learning. So thank you to the NSPAC for partnering with us with those books. Okay, so that was a little about the elementary school. So I do want to highlight some of the work here at Trotter. Social emotional issues are often happening in middle school. There's a lot of work in our counseling department. One of the programs we've continued to do this year is the Signs of Suicide, SOS program. This is the second year doing this sort of updated version that they've provided. The Department of Public Health has provided it to free, and we've continued to get scholarships because it's such an effective program. They've offered it free to schools for several years. So this year we had approximately 90% of 7th graders participate in the program. It's a one-day class during health. The other 10% of students who didn't participate, either they chose not to participate, their families chose not to participate, they happened to be absent on that day, or they maybe had individual needs and they accessed the lesson in a way that was appropriate for them. So of those students that participate, about 18% of students needed some kind of follow-up, which ranged from just a conversation with a counselor to maybe even phone call home and communication with families, depending on their responses on a screener at the end. And families were contacted when students needed any kind of follow-up. So that was another real successful year. So I want to really thank our counselors for working so hard on that program to support students. Another program here at Trotter is the state mandated substance use screening with 8th graders, so they just completed that in the last month. They continue to work on here at Trotter some of the community conversations and really working on helping students understand some of the developmental issues that they're facing here, right, through that adolescent period of 6th to 8th grade that we all know and love. And then finally, thinking about those health standards, and here at Trotter, really looking at our health classes, our PE classes, what are the students already learning, what are maybe some areas that we still need to develop. And we're actually looking at the Second Step middle school curriculum as well to see if there's any pieces of that curriculum that can also support this work here at Trotter. So that's continuing work for next year. Okay, so now I'm going to take a few minutes and share some of the data from the Metro West Health Foundation. So this is a survey that is done every 2 years. So this year it was done in late October, and approximately 370 Trotter students completed the survey this year. And it is really helpful because it helps us look at longitudinal data here at Trotter, and also comparing Trotter students to the Metro West region. So it's about 25 towns in this area. And the 7 areas that the survey asks students about, you can see here: substance abuse, violence, mental health, physical activity, other kinds of protective factors, online behavior, things like that. Okay. So on the first pass of looking at the results, which are, by the way, like a 400-page document, I always try to take away some positives right away. And my initial pass at this was that we have some really good positives here. So our substance use rates in our middle school students is very low. We should be really proud of that. We have similar or lower rates than the region. And students have generally a high perceived risk of substances, so they understand that substances will be harmful to them. Dating violence is very low here in our community. That's a good thing. And then school connectedness, Troutio students feel more connected than other students in the region, which is really nice to see. And they report having more positive peer connections than other students in the region. So those are some of like the initial really positive takeaways that I saw from our findings that I think we should be really proud of. I think I even emailed Mr. Kittleson and Mr. Hershak complimenting them on some of these findings because it was nice to see. Do you want to show the next graph? So here's a graph. So I should say that some of the findings they share with us are 6th through 8th grade and some are just 7th through 8th grade. So this particular graph that I pulled out was just 7th and 8th grade. And this compares here our Southborough students to the Metro West region. And this is our substance use, lifetime substance use. So this is a student reporting in your lifetime, how often have you used cigarettes, electronic vapes, etc. And you can see that we have very low numbers. The light purple Southborough, the dark is the Metro West. The only real area that we're slightly higher is our alcohol use. And what I found really interesting was that when it then asked students where they got the alcohol, most students said they got it from parents with parent permission. So I thought that was an interesting finding for us to think about as a community. But again, our numbers are pretty low, which is what we would hope to see. And it's nice to compare it to the region there. I think in general, substance use numbers were generally down, which is good. Okay, so here is one more about student connectedness. So again, this is Southborough versus the region. And these were some nice numbers to see, right? I feel close to people at school. I feel like I'm part of the school. I'm happy to be at the school. Teachers at the school treat students fairly, and I feel safe at my school. Of course, for that last one, I feel safe at my school. We're at 84% versus 69% for the region. That's a number we should be proud of. Of course, I think we would all want that to be at 100%. So I think as good as these numbers are, we always know that we have more work to do. So some of the areas for improvement that I was able to grasp, take away just from my first pass at this longer report is that when we look at our mental health, our numbers are slightly better, like rates of depression and anxiety as reported by students are a little bit better, but that difference between girls and boys continues to be a pretty significant difference. So girls are reporting much higher rates of anxiety and depression than boys. And I do want to say that the Metro West survey does have a third gender option or a non-binary option, but there's not enough data for them to report that as a group without sharing potentially identifying information about students. So they know that that's something that is a limitation of their reports, but they're still reporting it as males and females. But the data's been pretty consistent across not just our school, but in the region, and I think in the nation, that girls' reported mental health is much worse than boys. So that's definitely something that we need to be thinking about. When asked about the sources of stress, it's mostly school, social issues, and appearance. And interestingly, more students report being overweight or needing or trying to lose weight than our health records of BMI and things like that indicate. So I think people are reporting that they're overweight when they really aren't. So again, that, oftentimes females, not having accurate representation of themselves. Bullying and violence, our numbers show approximately 30% of students report being a victim of bullying. That was certainly a number that struck me. And males are more likely to engage in physical fights. So that's not that surprising, but again, possibly concerning. So here's one graph that I think is pretty striking when you think about the female versus the male reports of their mental health and suicidality. And I think it's hard to not see those differences and be concerned. We think about our anxiety and life being stressful. The female students are reporting much higher levels. I think it's really interesting to also look at, in our signs of suicide screening, one of the questions that students are asked is, have you ever had a suicide attempt? And this questionnaire also asks students that, and the numbers are about the same. So that shows us that on this survey, which is an anonymous survey, and the signs of suicide one, which is not anonymous, students know that we're looking at their answers, we get pretty similar findings. It's a low number, 2 or 3%, but it's obviously concerning. So we want to continue to think about how to support our students, especially our females. Okay. The bullying is always one that I look at and think about. Here's our numbers here in Southborough versus the Metro West region. And you can see we're roughly the same, but I think we know that bullying in middle school and sort of social interactions at middle school is often an area that we need to work on. So I think that's a takeaway that I have from this data. Okay. So I want to highlight some of the professional development work we've done this year. So we have several full days, and then we have ongoing professional development. So this year we spent a lot of time in August working on second step implementation and making sure that teachers had what they needed for the second step. We also have various sets of monthly PLC meetings that really look at our data-driven decisions and making sure we're using evidence-based practices. We have PLCs and different trainings around trauma-informed and inclusive practices. Continuing to support all learners with connecting UEL and SEL. We had another version of the mental health first aid training this March during our full day PD. We had 2 sessions of school avoidance given to us by Family Success Partnership. We had from state of stress to readiness with Brain Gym. We had Massachusetts Partnership for Youth has had several on-demand trainings and webinars that educators and families have been able to attend. And then for our student support team, the new IEP training has been a big area of professional development this year. Okay. So some of the priorities for next year will include that continued second step implementation year 2. As I said, making sure that teachers and students have what they need, and then really expanding that work and developing those community connections, because there's a whole other piece of family connections that can be expanded with the second step curriculum. Again, looking at the new health standards and how we're implementing those across our K-8 grades. Again, using that MTSS model and always thinking about how we're making decisions about our educational practices. And then engaging with our community partners like our Southborough Youth and Family and Compass and our families, of course. Last slide. So again, I just want to thank all of our teachers and school leaders and educators for supporting this work. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Does the committee have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Alan.
For the graphs for substance abuse, you sort of mentioned it, but I think I may have missed it. Is that one-time use?
Mike, please.
In terms of like lifetime substance use?
Can you turn on the mic?
The question was, for the substance use graph, was it lifetime? Some of them are lifetime, and some of them say in the past 30 days or 60 days. I think the graph I had was lifetime use. Are you able to pull it back up? The first.
First graph, yeah.
Nope, one more. That. No? One even. That.
There we go.
So see at the top it says lifetime substance use. So 11% of Southborough 7th and 8th graders have said that they've had alcohol in their lifetime.
Okay. And then for the bullying, there's two distinctions between like on property versus just bullying.
Yes.
Is the bullying, is it maybe within the survey this is more clearly mapped out, but is there an online versus in person?
There is some. It does go into more of cyberbullying and things like that. The 300-page report does have much more in-depth about that. And I think the cyberbullying is not as concerning as we thought it might be. The bullying and cyberbullying are both concerning. And I don't know if kids always think of them differently in the way that we define them. So I think there's a lot to that, because I think sometimes kids think cyberbullying is like the person online that I don't know, when a lot of the actual social interactions happen between friends online though, but it's friends. So I don't know if kids always count that as cyberbullying because it's a friend, not a stranger. So I just look at those all together, just the bullying and the cyberbullying together.
Okay. And then the last question is, tying back to tying the professional development and sort of all these programs that we're doing to any changes to these numbers from year to year. Like if you were to look past, the last 5 years, are there improvements that are worth highlighting? Are there places we need to work, and therefore we're doing these programs, and in the future, is it possible to tie it more to well, we did this, it did or didn't work, we've seen this improvement in this particular metric?
That's a really long question. I feel like I can answer. That's a hard question. Okay.
That's why I'll ask.
I feel like I can get really geek out on that question with you. Yes, there's a lot of good data, and I didn't show the graphs that have over time, but there's a lot of good graphs about that, and there's good things happening. The mental health overall is getting better, but still within that, there's these differences, especially the gender difference that I alluded to. So I think there are a lot of good trends. The substance use 2 years ago, when the survey first came out, substance use was down, and people thought it was because there wasn't access because of the pandemic. We were worried it was going to shoot up because 2 years later people have more access. It didn't. The fact that we have a very high perceived level of risk, our students think it's really bad to use drugs and alcohol at this age. That's good, and that shows that the education we're doing about the harm is effective for students. I think things like the second step, this is the first year doing it across our K-5 schools. So it is meant to start at any point, so a kid can jump in 3rd grade. But I think it's going to take several years to really see the effects of this. And I think, remember too, the students in 6th grade, when they're asked about how they feel about school and all, it's the very start of 6th grade. So are they answering about how they feel about Trotter? Are they answering how they felt about Neary? Those are things I don't always know. So I think that's why we have to look at those trends over time, and then comparing ourselves, I think, to the region is helpful.
Jen, I can add too. So this survey has been administered since, I believe, 2013. So 2006. So we have tremendous longitudinal data, and we do look at what our implementation in terms of curriculum or actions, and then do we see a result in the data. We are seeing positive results in the curriculum that we're launching and working with, and we're seeing the results in the Metro West Health Adolescent Survey. So we have a tremendous amount of historical data that we're looking at closely and can see what's working and what's not working.
And one of the other things is our SEL screener. We just started that for the last 3 years. So we're starting to get sort of our own data as well internally about, and then we can map onto when we implemented certain programs, how did this look for certain groups of students. But those are really good questions, and I can geek out on that data all day with you if you want to join me.
Yeah, I have a quick comment. Just regarding the graph for figure 6-1D, in terms of just some of the sentiments that students expressed. Yes. So I'm just wondering, I'm not sure, how those questions were asked, but I was just wondering, just out of curiosity, my background is in research, so of course, digging into these type of things are of particular interest to me, but I'm wondering if any of these questions were followed up with, there was an opportunity to provide any open-ended feedback to explain, what some of these sentiments, like a little bit deeper into them, particularly students that maybe did not agree with some of these statements, and again, just for the purposes of, just getting a deeper understanding of, how students are feeling and what some of those issues could
So
possibly be.
this is a Likert scale. So I think for these ones, the connectedness ones, so I feel close to people at school, it's either yes or very much. It's like the two top ones go into this answer. So in terms of the having open-ended answers, I don't believe so. I think it's really just like, multiple choice. Yeah, gotcha. Is that correct, Marianne? Yeah. No, what? Okay. No open-ended.
So the item about more students report being overweight or trying to lose weight than health records indicate, is that close, or is it concerning? Or do you happen to know if it's significant?
I'm gonna hand it to her.
Okay.
I feel like this is a Mary Ellen question.
Maybe you can move me off my portion control, Marianne, so that would be good.
I'll go back to that long policy.
So I think any number is concerning when you have to do it about self-image, that we're talking about middle schoolers and our female numbers are higher than our male numbers in most of the areas with mental health, but I think it's not a big difference, but there is a difference between what our numbers show in our electronic health records and what the kids see for themselves.
Is there a trend, or is it kind of just stay that way?
I can't answer that, I don't really know.
Okay.
So I think the important part is to know that this is one piece of data. We have a lot of data that we use, that we look at all of it, and then we make our action steps, like the results in 2021, where mental health our numbers had gone really high, and that's where our focus was. And we saw those numbers come down, but the numbers came down across the state. Like we mirror what's happening in the Metro West region, as well as across the state with the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, the federal survey. So I think that we will dig deep into this data over the summer with all of the administration at the middle schools and the high school and teams, and then we'll make a plan for what we're going to do with this data and what our action steps will be from there.
Good. You're good, Roger. You're good.
Thank you.
So I have a few questions. Thank you for the presentation. How do we push out this survey to the middle schoolers? Like, how do they know to take the survey?
Gary, you want to take that?
Oh, sorry.
So the first step is we do communicate with families about the Metro West survey, the history of the survey, the purpose of the survey. We pick a date in which the survey will be administered. We provide an opt-out option for families as well. Families can also view the survey. Once that process is in place, we basically do an extended homeroom. It's done electronically now, so it's a software that's loaded on the students' computers, and then the data is collected immediately, and then we get pieces of data throughout the year, but we just received kind of the full report this spring.
And how many students do we have total at Trotter?
Roughly around 430.
Okay, so we're missing like 60 in the
Yeah, I know.
data set.
I'm trying to think when we took 430 currently. I'd have to look at that. We didn't have too many students opt out. I don't know, but it's we just do it on one show. It's not like a makeup survey that we do. So
I'd be curious to see if we have a trend just for number of students in Trotter compared to the number that have taken it over the last 5 years, just to see if we're getting the same number of participants for percentages.
I would say the participation rates are incredibly strong. I would say that the responses are pretty consistent. We've had families or students say, "Well, don't you know, kids can lie?" And I said, "Well, if they do, they've been lying the same way since 2006." Like if you look, you don't see a huge spike or dip one way or the other. They're all kind of in the same. And as Mary Ellen said, I think it's every 2-year cycle. I think our students might be contending with 1 or 2 things a little bit more after in a 2-year cycle that we address.
Okay, thank you.
I think if the answers don't match, they disregard. So that might be a number why, so if someone answered, I drank a lot in the last 12 months, but I didn't drink any in the past 30 days, or opposite, if their answers don't correlate, then they're disregarded.
Okay, got it. And then on the second step program, can you just speak to, off the top of your head, some examples of what students are actually experiencing with that program at Finn, Woodward, Neary, and like just
kind of like what a typical lesson is?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that'd be great.
So it's a platform that the teacher uses, so it's not a platform students log into. So it's a digital delivery of the lesson. So let's say for a kindergarten student, the lesson might be like a 15, 20-minute lesson. It's something designed that teachers do it like about 1 lesson a week. So in kindergarten, I know they actually start with teaching kids how to pay attention. So it's like little video clips, there's little activities. The first thing, it might be like the kid has to stand up and do some movement activity, so it's trying to engage the students. And it'll teach like whatever that lesson is. So I know one of the first kindergarten ones is like how to pay attention. So they actually do some practicing, so there's some skill they work on, like what their body looks like. So it's sort of a set of, there might be videos or games or music. So the students the teacher delivers it electronically, like on the whiteboard, smartboard, and then there's some kind of like discussion or activity that they might do. And we try to encourage, like, if the teacher gives the lesson on like the Monday, that they kind of like revisit those themes over the week. Great. Does that help?
That's helpful, yes, thank you. Anyone else want to add anything to this conversation? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate the presentation. Okay. Legislative update. I can't say the word. Legislative update.
So there are no updates at this time.
Okay, 2024 and to 2025 subcommittee and liaison assignments. So in your packet is a listing of all of the standing committees, optional committees, and study groups. So my intention tonight is to briefly go over these, but not actually do assignments, because I think everybody needs to kind of think about what they're interested in doing. The only one that we need to make sure, before I say that, I just want to make sure that that's right. I think the only one we need to make sure we have is the payroll and warrant one, correct? So the audit subcommittee, that's working with Becky on any of the financial audits. So that's more of a finance one. The capital planning subcommittee is essentially a liaison to the capital planning committee. So working with Greg, Keith, and Becky on presenting to capital planning, which is a town committee, to prepare for the warrant. So that's also a finance one, and so that's part of the budget process. Operational budget subcommittee is the actual operational budgets, and that takes place like October through February, and then town meetings in March. So that one has a heavy lift during those months, and then is pretty quiet during the rest of the year. The payroll and warrants, that one is actually an electronic signature every other week for payroll and any other expenses. So that one, that's the one that we need to make sure we have tonight. and the Policy Development Subcommittee. So that one is working with Northborough and regional school committees on reviewing and updating policies. So that's can be a pretty intensive subcommittee as well. I'm going to stop there on those and see if there's, and Roger, feel free to jump in here if you think I missed anything on those.
So other than the payroll warrants, these we're just going to think about? Okay.
Unless somebody's jumping up and down that they want to commit themselves to it tonight, then I'm happy to take that. But so those are the ones that we really need to do at our next, at least by September. And then the other ones are optional ones. So I would, going through here, if you see one that's of interest to you, the collective bargaining is everyone, so that we don't need to deal with the liaison to Education Foundation. That one we would need to fill. The liaison to Food Services, that one I did this year. I definitely want to make sure we have somebody on that. The liaison to Health and Wellness Committee, I'm also on that one. That is working with Mary Ellen and a whole bunch of people from Northborough and Southborough in the region, and it's a very active committee, regularly meets. So that's a really good one to be on. Working with PTOs, SOSs, liaison to NSPAC is really important, so I want to make sure you think about that one. That's a parent-led group, but has a lot of regulation around it as well, so that's a good group to liaise with. Liaison to the selectmen, seniors, MTC, master plan is inactive, mentor to new members, so we have 2 new members and 2 not new members, so I think that'll be easy to figure out. NERI Building Committee is actually on our agenda later on, and the strategic plan is inactive. So if you have any questions about any of these, I think you can reach out directly to me. We can talk through what the commitment is. I think there's a lot of opportunity to be really busy with all of these committees if you wanted to commit to a lot, but I just think, it makes sense to be thoughtful on what you're really interested in. Go ahead.
So it might be helpful if we reissued this, eliminating the last year's members that aren't here anymore, because then we'll see some,
Sure.
You can sort of tell, but at least so the blanks will kind of jump out at us.
Sure.
And just FYI, I would be happy to remain on NSPAC as far as a liaison.
Okay.
But there could be a second person on that also without violating any quorum issues. So.
Agreed. I think we need, and I think the ones that actually do have listed 2 now are ones that we probably should continue with having 2, and that being one of them. So, is anybody jumping at doing payroll and warrants? Right now it's Roger and I.
I continue.
Okay, sure. All right, so we'll stick with that.
If someone wants to jump in, feel free. So.
Yeah. Or we can even do it, we can change that in September too, and we'll just have Roger and I do it until then. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other? Did I miss anything?
No, so we'll have Cheryl Lepre update the form, and then there are a few others that we'll add as well that are not listed on here. So we will reissue that to you, Chelsea, and you can distribute that to
Okay.
the committee.
Thank you. All right. Next, approval of grants and donations. Does anybody want to speak specifically to these, or do you want me to just run through them?
So we have a number of grants and donations. Steve, do you want to speak to the Woodward? The French Stream to Woodward School.
Thank you. We're seeking approval of Front Stream donation of $390, which was an employee match program. And we are very grateful this donation came in anonymously to Woodward School.
And then we have a donation from the Northborough Southborough Music Association to the Trotter Middle School for a new digital piano, an amount of $4,300.
Just amazing organization. Right before our jazz night, our piano crashed, and we reached out to the organization, and they quickly had a piano here at Trotter within like 3 or 4 days. So very appreciative of that.
And then we have a donation from ARCO National Construction, New England to Trotter Middle School for a jazz night cost, an amount of $1,000.
That's correct. As I mentioned, we did have a guest performer, the trumpets from Saturday Night Live, in order to provide that opportunity for students. That company, sponsored that performance.
And then lastly, we have donation from friends of the Southborough Youth Commission Incorporated for the SEDP camp scholarships in the amount of $12,456.50. Keith, I don't know if you want to speak to it.
Thank you, Katie.
Yes, we're very appreciative of this. Every year, the Southborough Youth Commission does accept applications for families who are in need. And this year, they're very generous to provide over $12,000 so that families can attend the SEP summer camp.
Great, thank you. These are very generous donations from a lot of different folks, so thank you very much for all the support of these different programs. Does anybody have anything they want to say? Okay. So I'm going to move that I'm going to do it in one motion. Okay. I move that we approve the donation from Front Stream to Woodward School in the amount of $390. The donation from the Northborough Southborough Music Association to Trotter Middle School for a new digital piano in the amount of $4,300. The approval of donation from ARCO National Construction New England to Trotter Middle School for a jazz night cost in the amount of $1,000. And the approval of donations from Friends of the Southborough Youth Commission Incorporated for SEDP camp scholarships in the amount of $12,456.50. Is there a second? All in favor? Okay, 4-0. Thank you.
So we'll be sure to get letters of thank you on behalf of the committee and the district.
Great, thank you. Okay, C, old business. So, NERI Building Committee update. So we have an item here to select the school committee representative, but is there an update that you want to give Roger or Greg on the NERI Building Committee first?
Would you like to take this? There have been a number of meetings and subcommittee meetings, not only with the NERI Building Committee, but the Communications Subcommittee, the Finance Subcommittee, Sustainability Subcommittee. So there's just a lot of activity right now because we have some deadlines that we have to meet. I think by the end of the summer, as far as state is concerned. I'm sorry, so do you want to add anything to that, Greg?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is that the work is going to move forward through the summer months and just encourage people to stay tuned in. We will be holding forums and other mechanisms and ways for people to provide input and feedback. There is some key deadlines and decisions that the NERI Building Committee will need to make, and it's essential that we receive community input and feedback on their thoughts and wishes in terms of where this project is headed.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions about?
I mean, I think the only comment that I'll make is that as the schedule or the deliverables progress, and we need to meet. I think we just need to be prepared to do that on an off-cycle meeting, given that our regular schedule is, our next next regularly scheduled meeting is not until September 11th. So I would just, and I think we can talk about this when we get to the calendar, because I don't think this is the only thing that we are going to need to meet about, but just keep that in mind that as you continue those meetings, and those are all public meetings for all the subcommittees and for the regular meetings, so I would encourage this committee to follow those meetings closely so that we are aware of what's being discussed, because I think you're right. I think there's a lot of meetings going on related to this. Okay, so with that, the Neary Building Committee is a yearly appointment of the select board. And so they are looking for our recommendation for our school committee representative to join that, or be reappointed to that committee or appointed to that committee. And so they will do that by the end of June, because that appointment is up on June 30th. So I think that they're meeting, I don't know when they're meeting, so, but we'll let them know who our rep is. So Roger's done it for the last year, because I think it was Katura before that, and Jen maybe. So Roger's been pretty close to this and is on a bunch of subcommittees related to the Neary Building Committee, so I think it would just make sense for him to continue with that, so that way we're not having to get caught up on all those details, if everybody's okay with that. Okay, so I'm going to move that Roger Challen be the school committee's recommendation to for the representative to the Neary Building Committee. Is there a second? Seconded by Laura. All in favor? Laura. Thank you. Next is C2, preschool presentation numbers. So last meeting we had a presentation of preschool, and the genesis behind that was to look at an increase to rates, which we hadn't done in, I'm not going to guess, several years. And I think there were some questions about that, so we've asked Jennifer Henry to join us this evening. So Jennifer, if you want to come up, that would be great. And do we have slides for this one? Okay, great, thanks Keith. And Jennifer, I'll let you kind of set the stage, and then we can ask questions if that's okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So I know that this slide is the same slide as was presented at the last school committee meeting. I just wanted to give a little bit more detail about these slides. So on the left, you'll see that our total enrollment numbers for the preschool for the 23-24 school year. Our total enrollment this year, towards the end of the year, was 119 students across 6 total integrated classrooms. That's a breakdown of 50 students who have special needs and 69 tuition-paying students. And we're proposing to add an additional integrated preschool classroom next year, which would be a total of 7 integrated classrooms. The reason that we're proposing to do that is to remain in compliance with DESE guidelines, as well as to be mindful of the community desire to have children participate in the preschool as general education neighborhood children. So just to explain further DESE guidelines, there are early childhood DESE guidelines that govern how many students and what the ratio of students in classrooms can be. There are 2 options. There can be a total of 15 students with no more than 7 special education students with 1 teacher and 1 aide. Or the other option is to have a total of 20 students with no more than 5 special education students with 1 teacher and 1 aide. Across the last 5 years, we keep data every year, and we have had an increase in children, not necessarily the total overall number of children with special needs participating, but the total number of children who present with significant learning profiles, significant learning disabilities, developmental delays, autism spectrum disorder. We have several medically fragile students at the preschool. So we have seen an increase in the number of students over the last 5 years that are requiring full-day programming. These numbers, when we're thinking about it, it gets a little bit confusing when we're talking about total number of spots, because some students, there are different schedules at the preschool, so some students participate in half-day schedules, some students participate in full-day schedules. For the general ed neighborhood children, that choice is made by parents. For children who qualify for preschool through the special education process, that choice is made based upon their overall goals and objectives as delineated in their IEP, and the level of services that they need in order to make measurable effective progress within the curriculum. So for example, children who are recommended for participation in full-day preschool primarily are presenting with IEP objectives across multiple developmental domains and require a significant portion of their day to be delivered in highly systematic instruction, small group, one-to-one learning, and require that to be outside of the classroom because it's different than what the general education curriculum is happening. And while we have seen that increase, we also have seen a significant increase in the interest from the towns of Northborough and Southborough in having their children participate in preschool as neighborhood tuition-paying children. We have maintained a wait list for the last 3 years across most of the school year and had not had spots to accommodate the level of interest that families are indicating. So that is all why we're proposing to add the 7th integrated classroom next year, so that we can meet the needs of our numbers of total special education students, as well as not need to decrease the number of total general education spots in a classroom. So that is that first slide. And then, actually, I'm sorry. So the other thing that is important to note about how we try to predict how many students, special education students, are going to join us across the school year is that because at preschool, it's different than any other grade in the district, so we start the school year with a certain number of students, and then across the school year, as children turn 3 and are found eligible and require preschool programming to address their needs and IEP objectives, we're adding students. So we're adding students every month across the entire year, and we get our data in an attempt to make accurate predictions about how many spots we'll need by the end of the year from multiple sources. So one source is we look at averages, and we have 5-year averages now, data over 5 years to get a 5-year average of how many students on average we've added across the school year who qualified through the special education process. And at the bottom of that side, on the right side, you'll see that on average we've added a total of 14 special education students per year as they've turned 3 years old. Other sources of data that we get are, I work very closely with the early intervention areas that service our areas in our towns of Northborough and Southborough. There are two different main early intervention agencies that service our towns. And they do give us information, although that information that they share is not super detailed and sometimes
all it really gives you is state ID numbers for children and their main category that they're qualifying under. So we do our best to try to look ahead, predict, but that's not the most accurate source of trying to make predictions about how we're going to end the school year. And obviously, in order to stay in compliance and make it across the school year, we have to be accurately predicting so that we don't go above certain numbers. So that's that first slide. So Keith, you can.
Sorry, before we go to the front, the second side, can we just take questions on this?
Sure.
And I know I know that Desi has the guidelines for pre-K, right, as far as the fuel class construct.
Correct.
But, and at the kindergarten, that stops, right? From kindergarten on, then there really aren't any more, is there one Desi guidelines, if you will? Because, but okay, I got it.
So I'm not an expert on kindergarten.
Well, I'm looking,
Oh,
so,
sorry.
all right. So I just wanted to kind of confirm what I thought there. And on this, so the 2023-24 school year, I guess we ended with 50 students?
Correct.
So, and we would have probably started with 14 less or something like that. I know you can't predict. Do you recall?
So in 23-24, I'm just looking at different charts here. We added a total of 14.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So the total enrollment for 24-25 is 129. Is that the number that are enrolled today for the start of the school year?
So at the bottom there, you'll see with adding the 7th classroom, that brings us up to 96 neighborhood children's spots.
Yeah.
As of we are still actively enrolling children, but as of today, the number has changed every day this week, to be honest.
Okay.
But as of today, we have all but 3 half-day spots filled.
You have all but, okay, so the max number that we'll have, that we can take is 129? Or you have?
No, that is not the max number that
Okay.
we can take because we're starting with only 33 special
Yep.
education students, and that leaves us room as the year goes on to add the students that our predictions and different data sources say that we should receive.
So do we have up to 47 spots for special education?
We have up to, we have, again, it's a little bit complicated because we have full day and half day spots, but we have up to, if we were to divide it how I think it will probably go, we have 20 full day spots and 30 half day spots, a total of them.
And so there's room to grow for the special education, but is the tuition paying students capped at 96?
The tuition paying students would need to be capped, yes, and that is true every year.
Yep, okay. Got it. Thank you. Anybody else on this slide?
So this is just a little bit about information about the overall makeup of our preschool and what it looks like. So we'll have 7 integrated preschool classrooms. All of those classrooms are multi-age, so they include children between the ages of 3 to 5 who are not yet K eligible. And we have students with various different schedules across the day. So we have students with half-day schedules, students with full-day schedules. The overall schedule of the preschool day is aligned so that we can do this and manage it well. But what this does is allow us a lot of flexibility around meeting the needs of our special education students as they join across the year, because we don't get kind of pigeonholed into certain numbers of spots. In addition to those integrated preschool classrooms, we have 2 specialized instruction classrooms, and those 2 classrooms are really
For students who require, as I said earlier, these are for our full-day students, special education students, who require a large portion of their day to be very specialized, highly systematic instruction, delivered either in one-to-one or small group settings, typically based on the principles and procedures of ABA. And it's important to note that there is no one schedule for any child. We really customize schedules for every child based upon how they're presenting. So some children who require highly specialized instruction may spend, 60 minutes of their day outside of the classroom, the integrated preschool classroom, while others may spend, larger amounts of time across their day. It's really based on what their learning profiles are, what their needs are, and what parts of the curriculum in the integrated classroom would be most meaningful for those children to participate in. We also have a variety of related service providers that support all of the different developmental domains at the preschool. And then we have a preschool EL tutor, and her role is to identify EL students providing support. She does that via either in-class service delivery, so working with small groups of children, consulting with classroom teachers, and or some students receive EL services outside of the classroom in small group instruction. And just a little bit of data about how busy our EL tutor is. So out of our 119 total preschool students, 59% of those children speak a language other than English at home. And then when we assess preschool children for EL using the PLAS 2000, that tool is only normed on 4 and 5-year-olds. So our 3-year-olds do not get tested. So of the 38 total students that were tested this year, 45% of them qualified for EL services and are receiving EL services. So we have a large population of EL learners at the preschool as well, which is another reason why we really don't want to diminish our tuitions, general education spots, because this is often a great place for them to have English acquisition and become more comfortable with English before they start kindergarten. On the right-hand side of our slide, just a little bit of information. We utilize multiple curriculums at the preschool. Our main curriculum is focused on early learning, which is a thematic curriculum that crosses multiple curriculum domains. So it includes literature, math, ELA, science, social studies, and some SEL. That is a high-quality, evidence-based curriculum that was developed by the Boston Public Schools and is used by many early childhood programs across the country. To specifically target math, we use Building Blocks curriculum, Haggerty, which is a phonemic awareness curriculum, which is also used at kindergarten and first grade in the district, is also used and implemented at preschool. So it serves kind of two functions. It's giving some of our early learners exposure, systematic exposure, and direct exposure to phonemic awareness development, but also preparing them to be more prepared once they go to kindergarten or first grade. At the preschool, I know you heard about Second Step. At the preschool, we have been using a SEL curriculum called ALS PALS for about 5 years. That curriculum is a targeted curriculum. The topics that it targets and has direct instruction on are very similar to those in Second Step, but it is a puppet-based curriculum, so there are 2 direct lessons delivered each week in every classroom. The teachers implement it, and there are 3 puppets that always kind of deliver the lesson, obviously with the teacher being the puppet voice. And it is very music-based, so there are a lot of songs to teach different skills. Like, for example, there is a brainstorming song that teaches kids to go stop, think, what's the problem, say how you feel.
And so they kind of are catchy tunes that kids hum and are very helpful to help them learn those different skills. We also use handwriting without tears to do some pre-readiness for handwriting, early handwriting skills. And the zones of regulation, which is a specialized curriculum around teaching children emotional regulation skills that is implemented in much of the district at other grade levels as well. So those different curriculums really give our students a good foundation as they're moving up higher in the grades. Some of the benchmark assessments that we administer across the year, so we have a Hegarty assessment that we administer. We also administer the PELI, which is a preschool early literacy indicators evaluation, which is a dyslexia screening. We use a building blocks assessment that we've created to kind of monitor children's progress in math, and we've worked really hard over the last year and a half to get data for our preschool students up on the district database sites that teachers can see as children move on. So, for example, if somebody in kindergarten or first grade wanted to see how a child was doing at preschool, that would now be possible. And then just to highlight 2 of our yearly events that are specific to preschool. 2 years ago, we started having celebrations around the world just to celebrate the diversity we have in our students and staff, actually, around different cultures, different celebrations that people have across the year. We have parents volunteer to come in, and they prepare usually like a little slideshow, some different activities to highlight a celebration their family has. So actually up on the top right of the slide, you can see that this was a family that came in and was teaching about Ramadan. And so that is an event that has grown over the last 2 years, and so hopefully will continue to grow. And then the second event we have is our early childhood fair, as Mr. Ryan talked about. This was our 3rd year. It was on June 4th, Saturday, June 4th. And the first year we had the mission of it is to communicate information to our families about resources that exist in our communities that have resources and cater specifically to early childhood age children, so children ages 0 to 5. The first year we had 7 vendors. This year, which was our 3rd, as I said, we had 23 vendors, so it's grown quite a bit. We have vendors who come who offer specialized services for families of children who may have more specialized needs. We also have a lot of vendors who come who just provide early childhood services in general, so music and gym, that sort of thing. And this year we had over 200 people in attendance as visitors to the fair, so it was a huge success, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about it.
Great, thank you. And you had a beautiful day for it. I think it's rained a few times in the past, right?
Last year was not such a beautiful
Yeah.
day. This year was beautiful.
Yeah, so that's great. Anyone have any other questions based on this slide? Comments? No. Thank you, Jennifer, for the follow-up and a lot of good data here, so appreciate you coming to explain.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Enrollments.
So in your packet is the enrollment report for May 15th, 2024. There's no significant variances from the last enrollment report. Class size policy speaks to K through 2. The ceiling is 20 students, and we are well within the class size policy. And grades 3 through 5, the ceiling is 22, so we are within the class size policy. We will monitor this closely over the summer. If there's any significant changes, I'll work through the chair to share that information with the committee.
Just a question on kindergarten for next year. Did that actually increase more than our last? Or were we at 117 last year?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. Any comments on that?
And then I'll ask Becky to provide the monthly general fund expenditure report.
So it's so hard to believe that we are actually in the final month of fiscal year 2024. As of May 31st, we had $82,328 remaining on the operational budget, which represents 0.36% of the total budget. As we approach the fiscal year end, we have developed a plan for year-end spending, which includes the purchase of curriculum materials to support our work next year. I would like to thank the principals and their staff, the central office leadership team, and the finance team for all of their work this year. Despite various challenges and unforeseen circumstances, I'm looking at you, Clayton, we have been able to work within our operating budget and allocate resources effectively to meet the needs of our students and our staff. So just a big thanks to them.
Any questions on the budget? And I know, like, you hear 0.36%, and you're like, wait a second, we still have one whole month to go, but there's encumbrances in there that are factored in. So I would suggest if you have questions about how we account for actuals, including encumbrances, that you just let me know, and we can get those questions answered.
Motion to accept.
Sure.
I'll move.
Yeah, I have it here.
I'll move that we accept the Southborough Public School District fiscal year 2024 budget monthly general fund expenditure report as of May 31st, 2024 until audited.
Is there a second? All in favor? Okay, seconded by Alan. 4-0. Thank you. And then the ESSER funding revolving accounts, Becky.
Okay, so thank you very much. In terms of ESSER 3, Keith, if you want to go to probably the next slide. Next one. You can see as of May 31st, we do have just over $2,700 remaining in the ESSER 3 grants. For the newer committee members, these were grant funds that were allocated to the district as part of the COVID grant funding that came out. I think this one was issued in FY21. So we started with $281,000 and we have $2,700 remaining. We do have until September 30th to fully expend this grant. Dr. Reinhorn is meeting with the Spanish teachers at both Finn and Woodward to come up with some ideas for purchases that will support those classrooms in terms of curriculum resources and also just classroom resources. So we do have a plan in place to fully expend the ESSER 3 funding. If you want to move to the next slide, Keith. So as you can see on the revolving account, we have added 2 new accounts to this report. The first report is on our food services program. We did begin fiscal year 2024 with just under $170,000 as our starting balance. And as of May 31st, we have about $225,000. Just for the committee's knowledge, the food service program does have to be self-sustaining, and at this point in time it is self-sustaining, and certainly the free meals that the state has been offering for the past, is this the second year, I believe they've been, well, since COVID, that it has been very helpful to the operation of this program. The expenses that are included in this are obvious. They're the staff salaries, the food costs, and then also the kitchen supplies. The USDA does recommend that no more than 3 months of expenses be kept in this revolving account. Our average monthly expense cost is about $55,000, so we are slightly higher than that. However, we are implementing a equipment replacement program, and we are looking at the needs in each of the buildings, and we'll be using those funds to implement that plan. In terms of the facility rental revolving account, Really not much of a change from last month. The only main difference is that we did receive some additional rental income, and that is from the Assabet Valley Collaborative for the spaces that they use in our two of our schools. And we continue to hold that $10,000 for the Trotter paving project retainage until we get the all clear from the town that we are good to make our final payment on that. The extended day program, as of the end of May, does have a balance of $261,000. That is a little bit higher than what we usually see. We are starting to see summer camp money come in, so we will expect to see that go down as we obviously incur some of those summer camp expenses. The encumbered amount represents the amount of salaries and expenses that we anticipate through the end of this fiscal year. So until the end of June, those are salaries and any type of expenses that we have issued purchase orders for. That encumbrance figure does not represent any of the benefits also that are paid out on behalf of those employees. We do reconcile that with the town on a quarterly basis, so we will be making adjustments to that for those benefits. And then lastly, down at the bottom, and Jennifer Henry will like this number, we're reporting on the preschool early childhood program. As a reminder, at last month's meeting, we did talk about that program. These funds are maintained at the regional level, and the reason why it's maintained there is that it does include tuitions that are paid by both Northborough families as well as Southborough families. So that is really the holder of the funds. And that is for the general education program that Jennifer just spoke about. We did begin the year with just under $150,000. Our revenues as of May 31st are about $450,000, and our expenses have been $426,000. But I do want to point out that we do have encumbrances remaining for the rest of the fiscal year amounting to $82,000. So you can see that we are chipping away at that beginning balance that we had. And we do, in all of our accounts, like to maintain 3 months worth of expenses. It's something that I think is good practice, especially after the pandemic when we were paying people, but we were not collecting tuitions. This also accounts for health insurance. We do pay for health insurance out of the preschool revolving account, so those are some of the expenses that you're seeing represented here. And over the summer, what we are going to do, though, is we're going to put together a more comprehensive report to share with the committee of the finances, but this will give you just a higher level overview of what the preschool program looks like at this point in time. And then I just wanted to point out one other item that was included in your packet, and that was the Division of Local Services information on revolving accounts for school departments. That was just provided to you so that you can understand the various accounts that school departments are permitted to have, the regulations or the Mass General Law that supports those funds, and then any reporting requirements and what can be paid out of those accounts. You know, just a quick point of clarification, if we're receiving funds for food services, those funds have to be spent on food services. It cannot be used to support other aspects of the budget. So they are very much regulated in the eyes of the Division of Local Services. Go ahead, Roger.
So at the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, these revolving fund balances will be different than that, right? However, you know, not counting whatever special meeting we could end up having this summer, our next scheduled meeting would be September. So would those revolving fund balances at the end of June 30th be provided to us at that meeting?
Yes, I can do that.
And would it be all right if we had the comparative numbers from the end of last year?
We can
for
put
those
that
three
together.
funds?
Mm-hmm.
Make sense? That's all I had.
Great, thank you, Becky. Thank you. Nothing for educational policy? Correct. Okay, and then policy development is on visitation and observation policy.
So that is just for distribution?
So no action needed there. Any questions on that policy? Okay. All right. Next is personnel report.
Yeah, so in your packet is the personnel report as of June 12th, and the principals and the Human Resources Department is doing an excellent job hiring. I've met with some of the new hires, and they're outstanding. We're really fortunate to have great people joining our district. I think we're in a great place with hiring at this point in the year. And you'll see some retirements and also some resignations. Our most volatile staffing is our educator support professionals. Many received teaching jobs or moved to other districts. So we do typically expect resignations in that area, and we do work hard this summer to make sure we fill those positions.
Okay, thank you to all of them who are leaving for their service to the district. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, so next is item H, the distribution of the 2024 Go the Distance Awards event program. Do you want to speak to this, or do you want me to speak to this? Okay, so I had an opportunity to go to the beginning of this awards event. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay for the whole thing, but it is a wonderful event that NSPAC puts on, and it really highlights the great work that our educators do for our special education students. And it's just a fun, good feel event, and it's nice to see educators recognize, and the kids get so excited to present the awards to their teachers and to the people who support them. So thank you to NSPAC for putting on a great event, and they had it in the auditorium this year, and I think that was a good setup, and it's just a really wonderful event. So if anyone gets a chance to go next year, I would definitely encourage you to do that. Since I've been on this committee, it's probably one of that and Titan games are kind of my favorite things to go to so far. So, anybody, Roger?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend this year, but I attended last year, and I confirmed Chelsea's comments. It really is a wonderful event, so I encourage everyone to also go.
Great. Action on minutes. So we have 3 sets of minutes. Open meeting, May 8th, 2024. A special meeting, May 15th, 2024. And the capital planning subcommittee meeting October 30th, 2023. Anybody have any changes on those? Okay, so I'll move that we approve the May 8th, 2024, May 15th, 2024, and October 30th, 2023 minutes as presented in the packet tonight.
All second.
All in favor? Roger seconded. I made the motion. All right. Nothing on approval of payables, bills and payables. Sorry, bills and payrolls. No. Agenda items for next month. So I think I'm gonna hold on that because I'm going to talk about our schedule for a second. So our next regularly scheduled meeting is September 11th, as I alluded to in the prior agenda items. I think we probably will have another meeting during the summer. Zoom, I think we have a few things that we'll need to cover. So if you have agenda items, feel free to email me anytime and we'll make sure we fit them in. But if anybody has anything they want to bring up tonight, we can certainly take that.
Well, I know that the recommendation that went to Superintendent Martin was to include community updates on progress as a standing agenda item.
Yes.
So is that just an assumption that that will be?
You can hold me to that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll write it down. Okay, so I'm going to move to the second public comment session of this evening. If anybody wants to provide a public comment, feel free to go to either microphone here, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Down at 250 Hartwell Road. I am a parent of one of the kids that was in the classroom that's been affected by everything that's going on in the area, and I will come out and say that I don't understand how Valenti still has a spot in that building.
Can you speak more into the microphone?
This isn't to say that we're nitpicking about everything, but our trust with this administration has been replaced by heartache for our children and the 2 questions of are they safe at school and are they learning? Neither which we've been able to get direct answers from this administration at all. I do want to point out a couple of good things that I personally have encountered. The first time Chelsea came in, set up meetings, her and Roger took time out of their day to come talk to us, she told us that she had a prepared statement, and she said, this isn't the time or place for it. I need to hear what you have to say. So I thank you for being the first one to actually step back and listen to what our concerns have been. And I don't want that to be overshadowed by everything else that goes on. The next was after our follow-up meeting with Greg, where we were talking circles and nothing was answered again. It didn't sit well with me for what Gary's answer to my question was, which was, how do you make sure that our kids are safe? I went to him the next day. He graciously took time out of his day to meet with me for a few minutes to discuss what was said. And what I realized was, while he never threw Greg under the bus, he did say that he trusted the process that Greg had and the information would get to him, implying that the information that Valenti stood silently next to an educator as she retaliated against a student was not shared with the principal from the next school that he had asked to come. It's just yet another failure on, I'm going to give you great words and have no follow-through. There was no accountability whatsoever. And then today, to get the email that apparently no one went up to the class for callings that says, I want to make you aware that despite our collaborative efforts for report cards, there are some aspects of students learning that we're not able to report at this time. As a result, your child's report card will have 3 not-assessed grades in the area of social studies. These standards were taught but not formally assessed. I wish you all a wonderful summer and a smooth transition to Charter. There was no further follow-up. There was nothing to say what that meant. Where the documented proof, again, that our children are learning. So if you think that I'm being harsh standing here and giving you the factual statements of what happened to an educator and a professional, I implore you to think about how that 11-year-old child felt as he was retaliated against when we ask our children if they see something to say something. How does this woman still hold a title in one of our schools? How is this overshadowing every other teacher that we have in the school district that is amazing at what they do? We have plenty of them. We also have children that no longer want to be associated with Southborough because this is the impression that they have from us.
Thank you.
Christina Berthelsen, 48 Main Street, Southborough. Sorry, I almost gave you my old address. I blanked for a minute. I wanted to say just really quickly that while I very much appreciate that we are getting communication that's coming out from the district that is more honest and truthful, as the parent of that 11-year-old child who is being referenced here, I can't echo Tabitha's statements enough. the fact that not only is my child so grateful that tomorrow is the last day he has to set foot in that building, but I, as a parent, cannot walk into that building, and quite frankly, to sit at this meeting and look up at that administrator who I have no faith in, no trust in, not as a parent, not as a professional educator, not as someone who, while I very much understand and appreciate as a former public school teacher, the process with the union and due process with the teacher, and how that investigation will take what it takes, I do not understand how an administrator who is not covered by those same protections still can walk in that door every day after lying to my face, after lying to the faces of many of the parents in this room. And I am asking my son to go and be brave and be strong, and I'm trying to model that behavior for him, and I am seeing people who just continuously are not faced with repercussions for the actions they've taken when my child and my family have dealt with repercussions and just a lot more trauma than what needed to happen from something that could have, should have, would have been dealt with in a very different way if initial reports were taken seriously on January 10th when I first sent that email, and on January 11th when I first had that phone call, and again on April 24th when I again sent that email and had those conversations. And that's not to say I'm not grateful for Greg and Stephanie and Kamali and Jennifer and Chelsea and everyone who stepped forward and done all those things now. And Gary, it was wonderful to have you at our last meeting. But this is still not okay, and I just can't, as an educator, as a resident, as a parent, just continue to sit by and watch this non-action happen. It's really, really disappointing and really disheartening.
Thank you.
Am I allowed to speak again, or spoke before? Is that okay? I spoke before, is that okay if I say something else?
Let me just refer to my policy for a second.
No worries.
It doesn't say anything about not coming up a second time in the second segment, so I'll allow it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's Lisa Jankitis, 3 Johnson Road. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think there's a very big need for a cultural change in the district. I am a parent of one of the highest need children in the district, and what I would love to see is power given to our educators. I have sat in so many meetings over so many years begging for help for my child. The last time she was proactively supported was at Finn. Finn was a wonderful experience. Unfortunately, it was cut short by COVID. Ever since then, I have begged, I have pleaded, I've cried in more meetings than I can, it's embarrassing how many people I've cried in front of. I, at my own expense, got her neuropsychological profile updated recently, as we do every 2 years for kids with special needs. It's just what you do. I have to pay out of pocket for that. I received the report last night, and much to my surprise, in that report it says that her educational team has concerns about underlying learning disabilities. Or not, they didn't use the word disabilities, but underlying learning issues. No one on that educational team ever said one single thing to me about this. I literally spent months begging for help. I pulled my child out of school in January because she could not walk into that building. So please, I implore you, give the power to our educators, the teachers in those rooms, the amazing support staff that we have who are just, they feel like they cannot speak up for the children. And again, the last time that I felt that I had that support was a person who was sort of on their way out to retirement and is a wonderful educator in our school system. And I think she was at the point where she was like, you know what, I'm here for the children, I don't care about anything else. So if there is a culture shift in this district, I'm literally on my knees begging. Please give power to our educators, the people who are with those children every day, and let them speak up for these children's needs. You know, my child is not a line on the budget item, or a line item on the budget. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional. But anyways, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ron Lawrenson, 132 Marlborough Road. I just want to talk about some of the stuff that was presented tonight in the SEL presentation. I've not seen that before. I don't know if the committee has seen that report before, but to me there were a couple of things on there that might be worth digging into a little bit deeper. Some of the responses I think that some of the students might have given, and some of the charts and graphs. So I just make that comment if you would consider maybe seeing if you could get more information or dig into some of those responses. And then the other comment that I have is just around your independent investigation. It seems somewhat limited in scope as far as what the comment. There were 2 points I think, Chelsea, you made that you were maybe trying to go after. I don't remember them specifically, but to me at the time it doesn't seem as though it'll get you any more information. But I could be wrong, I've never been involved in that kind of process. So just maybe consider what your scope is and whether or not it actually gets you more information than you already have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Hronis. I'm at 9 Overlook Drive. First, I just want to say thanks to everyone here. I recognize, I think, caring is the price of admission to a room like this, and so I say that to everyone in the space. I appreciate the opportunity to be in community with people who all do care very deeply about our kids collectively. And Chelsea, I want to thank you in particular for the initiative and the thoughtfulness that went into your memo and the recommendations that you shared tonight, which I deeply appreciated. I also was a bit surprised that the audit is sort of an audit of the investigation from a third party as opposed to a separate third party investigation. And so I would just hope that the committee is entering or will enter into that process with an ability to take swift action if further action is required so that it doesn't become an audit that sort of sits on a shelf. I also recognize that the committee's purview and the leadership team's purview does not include a magic wand that can prevent bad things from happening or prevent the bad actions of any single person. But I do want to call on each of you to think about your own influence in these many spaces that you move through. What happened in one of our 5th grade classrooms, and my 2 kids, one's at Finn and one's going into Finn next year. So I'm not speaking from firsthand experience, but it was clearly harmful. It was harmful to some of the kids in that classroom and their families, as we've heard. It was harmful to our community more broadly, and the ripple effect, it's been harmful to the reputation of our community nationally. And I know we all have a stake in that. We all agree that there's real action that's necessary to really drive more accountability. And I just want to come back to Mr. Martineau, a couple of the points that you made early on. You said 2 things can be true at the same time, and I think that's very true here. It's also, in that vein, possible that something can be unacceptable and not necessarily violate a policy. And if we figure out that that's the case, I think that you all and we as a community have to do the very hard and unglamorous work of changing the policy. We've heard a lot of comments tonight about the complexities of policy, about the complexities of getting to the truth, and about the nuance, and all of that is true. And I think that in times like these, we can slip collectively into a conversation where we start to nitpick and wordsmith each other's arguments and get caught up in the policy and the complexity and lose sight of what really matters most underneath it all. So I would just encourage you all to avoid that trap, to think in this room and also when you go into rooms behind closed doors and you have all the conversations where you each exert your own form of influence, to really deeply consider how you're using the various forms of power that you do have to move beyond. If the policy is insufficient, we can move past that and really bring a boldness and a commitment to taking the action that's required so that we can all show up for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Tinty, and I live at 2 General Avenue, Oxford. I will be brief. I have a rising 2nd grader who had a magical time at the Mary Van School. I'm so excited about the work, and I have no doubt will be just ecstatic to go to Mary when it is her turn. But I want to speak from the perspective of a parent who is not at Mary yet, who's listening, who's plugged in, who volunteers everywhere and whenever she can, and who's deeply concerned about what she has heard over the past few months about what has happened in our school system. I believe somebody on the school committee mentioned earlier that we have to be very wary of what we take in via social media and what we take in from perhaps secondary sources. There are a lot of primary sources here that we have all tried to listen to, and at times there's some conflicting information coming out. I believe my friends. I also believe in educators, and I believe in our school system and the wonderful things that are happening throughout. But there are very disturbing things that have also happened. There is a way to get to truth, and I think that in order for all of us to move forward, a third party and outside investigation could be that way. I want to echo what's been said about the audit that was mentioned earlier. I don't understand the nuances of that. But I support getting at the truth, and I support effective communication and dissemination of that truth. And I think the only way that we are going to be settled, be at peace with whatever decisions get made, is if we can get at it from outside of our current internal system. So I would encourage that search, and I would encourage the swift dissemination of that information, because we are all hurting for our colleagues, for our friends, for our community, and we all deserve that. So thank you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jill Dixon, 1 Kenley Lane. I agree 100%. I wrote a little statement just to keep me on track because I've been on for a long time. I agree 100%. There are outstanding teachers throughout the district and at Neary, 100%. Right now, they are hurting too, and their reputations are at stake because they're associated with our school system. They need guidance, they need support, and they need it now. Confirmation bias, I heard you loud and clear, and that was so good for me. I looked it up, I was Googling it while you were talking. I think that was really a great phrase to use, and I'm guilty of that myself. I think, echoing a lot of what's already been said in this room, the national news, because we are on the national news, if anyone wasn't aware of that, parent testimonials, conversations with the impacted families, they're being shared very, very generously across our community. But the silence from the administration and from the district leadership is deafening, and it's not okay. It's actually appalling. Greg, you said you were committed to rebuilding. In my opinion, we need to start with transparency, and that needs to happen now. I would echo the need for a completely independent investigation. I also don't understand the nuances of an audit of the existing investigation, but to me, auditing something we did internally isn't going to get us where we need to be. I really feel very strongly, I think it's a good first step, but I feel very strongly that we have to do something independent of that investigation, and I think it's critical. At some point, common sense needs to prevail, and we need to work together to heal and to move forward. We know better, and we need to do better now. Action is all that matters. All of these words are great, plans are great, we need action, and we need it now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jessica Lenson, 13 Strawberry Hill Road. I wanted to echo the women before me. I think it's really important that we're not talking about auditing an internal audit. To me, that seems like a lot of wasted time. Asking people to investigate themselves is kind of a useless activity. And I feel like the important thing here is to investigate what happened. the utmost importance to me is that we believe children. I think the fact that they are being gaslit and told that things haven't happened that they've been part of is painful and harmful and sets them up for further damage down the road. And one other thing that I wanted to say here, and I know we can't get responses, but I think it's important to point out, is that a year after I moved here in 2019. In 2020, George Floyd was murdered, and we all came together as a community and, in fact, sent a letter both to the school committee, at least one of you was on the school committee at that point, and to the administration demanding curricular change, but more importantly, cultural change. It is extremely upsetting as a person who crafted the first draft of that letter that we are here 4 years later dealing with a scenario that is pretty reprehensible across the board, both in the action and the follow-up or lack thereof. So I just ask you, as kindly as possible, how is this happening? And what is it that you're going to do? And why is it that we should wait until next fall for a plan? And is it going to be a bunch of check boxes again, or are we going to see effective change? I do want to point out that there are plenty of incredible teachers. I believe Finner and Tav are here. They made my daughter's transition into a new town amazing at a time where she did not have any confidence. So yes, they exist, but Greg, your point that it's like one teacher, well, the ripple impact of that is every child that sat in that class and experienced that, every parent, every grandparent, and the rest of us who have also had damaging experiences within the school system, who are now openly discussing that there is an ongoing trend of dismissal and lack of action for bullying, for racism, for anti-Semitism, and really enough is enough. And so I ask everybody to start holding themselves accountable and stop making this into a passive response. We deserve better. Frankly, our kids deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Lauren Martin, 57 Marlborough Road. My phone is on 3%. I have all these notes and I don't know if I'm going to be able to access them. I was listening to all the reports. I believe I don't know who any of you are, actually, I apologize, but I'm assuming you're from all of the schools, representing the schools. And at the end of your slides, the last slide said, "It's been a great year." That's really hard for me to believe with listening to what all these folks are saying, what has been transpiring since January in the 5th grade classroom at Neary. And to see those slides, the SEL presentation, that these kids not feeling connected to their school, they're not feeling safe in their school. I know that's here at Trottier, but I can imagine that a lot of those kids probably felt the same way, at Neary and these other schools. You reverse those numbers, 31% of kids do not feel safe in their school. And then we have things like this happening. I grew up in this town, I've only been back here 3 years. I am here because I am incredibly triggered, and I know that's kind of a buzzword, but I went to Neary, I was called the N-word on the playground in 1973, and it is 2024, and I cannot believe that this is happening. And I understand the frustration of all these parents here. I know I'm gonna run out of time. I understand the frustration of policy and the transparency and you all not doing the right thing and handling it. But what I'm seeing really is discomfort, and you need to push through this discomfort and just do the work. Like this parent just said, these kids deserve better. Our kids deserve to feel safe and comfortable in these schools, in Southborough, and getting this education. But it starts with all of you, all of us. Push through the discomfort and do the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Seconded by Laura. All in favor? Thank you everyone for coming. Have a great night.